PricewaterhouseCoopers and other top multinational organizations. She currently serves as the Global HRBP Talent Manager for a leading pharmaceutical company where she defines and delivers people and talent strategies. She is a 2018 mentor to the Queen's Young Leaders across the Commonwealth nation, a 2020 Leading Ladies Africa Top 50 Corporate Ladies in Nigeria. She was named one of the top HR influencers in Nigeria and most recent named one of the top 25 female icons delivering inclusive and equitable initiative in the corporate UK. She is a 2022 member of the Forbes Coaches Council, a certified professional by leading HR institutes in North America. She is also a member of the John Maxwell Leadership Team. She is a certified DICS behavioral consultant and a design thinking practitioner. Dupe is the founder of the Nigerian Professionals in the UK, now registered as the Black Achievers Network, a company established to help facilitate the inclusion and integration of BAME professionals in the business and career landscape within the UK. With your favorite emoji, join us in welcoming Modupe to the Growcircle Masterclass series.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if it's my network or
Yes, we can.
you can hear me. Okay. Modupe, I don't know if you can hear me as well. Okay. So Chineye, you can carry on. Let me put a call through to her.
Okay. All right. So we're trying to get our facilitator ready.
Okay, so she's going to join us, or she's going to start her session shortly. So while we wait for her to start, I would just like to welcome everyone to this masterclass. My name is Tosin Akinsulire. Recently, I found the name. I was asking my team, should it be the growth bestie or your growth bestie? And they said your growth bestie is fine. And I think that really resonates so much with my values or my core, the core of who I am. And that's because I believe in the potential that every human being carries. The fact that you can start from wherever you are and become what you really desire. The fact that you can actually live free and then you can live full to the potential that you carry. So I believe so much in growth. And I'm so excited that you're here today. And it goes a long way to show how much value you place on yourself and how much value you place on your goals. Thank you for making our time to be part of this masterclass today. So I believe that growth is not about how hard you work. And when I put out a post this morning, that was one of the quotes I put. It's not about how hard you work, however, it's about how well you learn. And one of the things I love to do is to create learning opportunities for people. And that's why we are here today. This is one of the learning opportunities that I believe would actually help you to become a better version of yourself. So whether you're an entry-level person or career professional, and your goal basically could be maybe to become more highly skilled. I believe that this conversation is actually very important for you to have in view. Okay, with about 9 billion people globally, you shouldn't have a narrow focus. Rather, you should think global and, like they say, think global but act local, meaning that localize whatever thought it is you have while you continue to expand. When I started learning public speaking, I feel that it's that one. I mean, there was a time we were outside the country. I think it was in Amsterdam or so for our yearly cycle meeting. We normally would go out of the country then. And then I volunteered for a poster presentation just to give an overview of what happened in the previous year, for a particular campaign that I implemented. And I volunteered. And as I raised my hand to talk, I was tongue-tied. I couldn't say anything. When I got to my room that day, I decided on one thing, which is that I would go on a learning journey and I would bring others along with me, a learning journey to sharpen my skills so that I'm equipped to share my thoughts everywhere. Okay, so I just said that to tell you that you can go on a learning journey, and this is an example of that learning that you can actually equip yourself with as you plan to take your career global. Modupe is one that I value so much. She's a trailblazer. She's my sister. We attended the same secondary school. She's had most of her career in the pharma industry, like me. I look up to her so much, and she inspires me a lot. And I'm really privileged to have her on the call today to share with you today. And please just she has a word for you. That's what I just kept resonating in my spirit. She has a word for everybody here. So please just listen intently and learn from her. She's able to build her career from ground zero to where she is today. And she has a word for you. So having said that, I'm just going to hand over to her to carry on. Thank you, Modupe. Thank you so much for honoring my invitation.
Hi, everyone, and well done, Tosin, for doing such an amazing job with this. Please, can we all use our emoticons to celebrate Tosin and her team for putting together this amazing, amazing learning session? Can we all do that? I can't see us clapping. I can't see all the emoticons. If you're here and you're grateful and excited about being here, can I see you, whether it's in the comment section? Thank you, Chineye, for doing that. I think I see somebody else, Ogechi. Where's everyone? Are you guys on this call at all? Okay, Sam, Bridget, I see you. Fumi, I see you. Thank you. Thank you. Jaye, I see you. Awesome. Hannah, have I seen your hands? Chinedu, Dara. Hannah, okay, I see Hannah. Awesome, awesome. Idris, Chukwebuka, are you there? Shino, I'm going to be calling names, okay? Now, one question I have for you is, who is going global without turning on their cameras? I don't get it. How are you global without your cameras on? Who is global without cameras? Who is playing invisible career here? You want to be visible, but your camera is off. How are we doing that? How are those two things jiving? I don't get it. Okay? Where are my global professionals? Oh my God. Oh my God. You want to be global but invisible. Is that what we're doing? Okay, Ogechi is dancing with the globe of the world. Wow. That's amazing. Can I see your face, Ogechi? Can I see your global face? We are here. I see you are here, Chinayam. Wow, it's interesting, and I'm so excited to be here. Tosin has said I have a word. Well, let's see. Oh my goodness. It's so humbling to be here because I still believe I'm on a journey myself. I'm not where I want to be, but I acknowledge the fact that I'm not where I used to be. So I'm excited to be sharing with you how to build global careers. I mean, I think it was Chinayem that was, facilitating the session earlier before Tosin came on board. And some of the things I'm like, it's like these people have finished what we're going to discuss already. So I'm not sure the new thing I'm going to be saying, but I believe someone on this call, maybe just one person or maybe more, will leave with something that will mark their minds, whether it's an inspiration to do something differently. Because the truth is, you are smart. We are smart, okay? For you to be a Nigerian to start with, trust me, you're brilliant. You are very brilliant. One of the culture shocks I had when I moved to the UK was, whew, it's not as as smart as you think. When you watch all those movies and you're like, see how people are doing things, see how people are living, see. Why can't we get it right in Africa? Why can't Nigeria? My people, trust me, you are smarter than you think. All right. And I'm going to give that to you. So being on this call is even, showing how extraordinary, you are as an individual. So thank you so much for being on this call. Now we're going to do something. I have slides, but I'm not going to be presenting with my slides. At some point, I will share with Tosin to pass across to you, but we're going to be discussing or touching on everything on that slide. I'm going to start with something because, like I said, in Nigeria, we have information overload. Everybody is a coach today. Everybody is a mentor today. Everybody is a public speaker today. A dime and a dozen every weekend, some career session is going on somewhere. In fact, it got to a point recently, I said, God, do you still want me to be a coach? Because I think we are plenty already, right? You must have been exposed to some form of personal development or the other, whether it's through a book, whether it's through a mentor, whether it's through a session you've attended. And my curiosity personally is, what do you want to take away from this session? What do you want to take away from this session? That is very key for me, all right? I can come here and tell you 20 steps, 10 strategies. If it doesn't address your unique situation, it is not going to help. So the goal is not to tell you what I think you should be knowing. The goal for me is to understand what you need to be able to position globally so that whatever barrier or obstacle you are experiencing in navigating that terrain can be addressed on this call. I think it was in 2016 or was it 2018, I started something called, career brainstorming sessions. And that came from a place of, these numerous career workshops or training or personal development workshops that happen week in, week out. And yet the workplace doesn't seem to be transforming at the rate that we have a lot of, these programs. And one of the things I observed in such sessions is you have amazing lineup of speakers, very brilliant people. But guess what? By the time they are done speaking, you only have few minutes for questions. So they have told you what you need to know, but when you're trying to apply the things they have shared to your current situation or your unique situation, sometimes it's like you have questions, but either you never get to the chance to ask your question, or the time is up, you know what I mean? So sometimes I feel starting with questions, is a lot beneficial, to everyone. So I want to find out, what do you want to know about building a global career? Anybody wants to build a cat? What do you want to leave the session with that will transform your career to where you want it to be? Is anybody willing to? Anybody? Or we are here because Tosin asked us to be here? Or really, really because you have an expectation? Anybody wants to share? What is that one question you would like to have answered on this call? I'm scrolling to see if I have any hands up that I'm missing, but I haven't seen any. Okay, no question. It seems everybody knows what building a global career is then. Okay, so I'm going to be calling names of people to share with us what they know about building a global career. Should we start like that? I want to see your comments in the chat section. Should we begin with you sharing with me what building a global career is about? Anybody? Let me go to the comment section if people are dropping. Nobody has dropped. Wow. How are we going to do this session today? You people are quiet, oh. I'm not. You people are quiet. Don't take my energy. I need yours, and I need your energy as well. Where are my people? Ayodele, Ayobola. Welcome, Vivian. Ebube, Chuku, Joy, Tolu, Shino, Chukwebuka, Sam. Okay, I see some of the comments coming through. Thank you so much. Sam says it's about starting where you are to the rest of the world. I love that. It says, Ogechi says, what does it really entail to build a global career? Of course, that's why we're here. Or how can one start? Or how did you start? Ogechi life stories. Wow. How can one start? How did you start? Awesome. Thank you for that. Jaye says, to be honest, I've come to elevate my mindset as I've always thought locally. Right. What does it take? How do you even start? What if you're social media shy? I see. Is there any way to do this? I love that. Thank you. So building a global career from Tolu says, developing the skills, experiences, and mindset to work, lead, and thrive. I love that, across international borders and cultures. Amazing. How do I build a personal brand for global visibility? What are the skills needed? Wow. Now, all the questions are coming. I love that. So this gives us a very good place to start from, okay? So I'm not just going to be assuming I know what you want to know. So to Ogechi's question, I'm going to start with my journey personally, okay? My background is chemical engineering. I studied in the best university in Nigeria. Right. So I studied chemical engineering in OAU, and I was going to be the first female gas engineer in sub-Saharan Africa. That was my goal for going into chemical engineering. So that 16-year-old girl filling her JAM form and making a decision on her field was aiming to get into school to become the first female gas engineer in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, how I got the impression that it had to be a region, not a country, I do not know. But as a young child, I remember that one of the things my parents helped me with, I read a lot of, outside the school books we had in school and all that, I used to read a lot of foreign books. So I think I was thinking, I thought big. In fact, what informed my choice of gas engineering, apart from the fact that I was very solid in mathematics, and I still am, right, is the fact that being told about the ozone layer depletion was a headache for me. All right. So in secondary school, when we started to talk about, ozone layer depletion and all the, gas emissions or whatever, carbon emissions and whatnot, I started to think of a world problem. I started to think of, how can I be a part of that solution? The world is going to be submerged someday in water if we do nothing about it. And so I made a decision that was going to be a part of the people that will solve the world's problem. So maybe as a child, I started to think world view. All right. I started to think world view. I wasn't just thinking, I want to get a job. I was thinking of what problem needs to be solved. And if not solved, is going to put us all in trouble. So that was the thinking I had as a child. As a child, I was the third of 5 children. I had 2 older siblings, 2 younger siblings, 2 older sisters precisely, and 2 younger brothers. So I just felt my positioning was quite interesting and unique. And so I used to call myself Ari. It had nothing to do with my name. I wasn't named Ari. My name is Dupe, yeah? But I just thought I was right in the middle of the family. And where that placed me was, I remember my oldest sister would, look after the youngest in the house, oldest, youngest, and all that. Then my second born would look out for the one right after me, because they had to look after my younger ones. And nobody looked out for me. Nobody looked out for me. I won't say they didn't care about me, but I was just the least on their priority, I wasn't too young, I wasn't too old, I was just there. So that gave me a lot of time to be by myself. And one of the things I see lacking is our world has become so noisy. People have no time to think. People have no time to be by themselves, to reflect and search their hearts for what they truly want from life, from who they really believe that they are. And so I think as a child, I had the privilege of isolation. Though people say loneliness, I don't see it that way. I didn't think it was a privilege at the time. I just used to wonder why nobody looked out for me. Yeah. But I learned how to look out. And so maybe in that space, I had a lot of time to reflect, to think. It was in that, time of my life, I was very clear on what I wanted. I wanted to become an engineer. So even when my parents came and said, law will be very good for you, you are very articulate, you can present arguments and whatnot, I didn't think so. I just felt, Daddy, if you want me to pass JAM one time, I need to do maths in JAM. All right. So if you put me in biology or all those literature heavy sort of professions, it won't do me any good. I loved calculations, and that was it. So they were able to yield to me, and that informed my decision. So I wanted to be a gas engineer, and it was supposed to be the first female gas engineer in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, remember that at the time, we did not have Google. So whether that was true, whether I was going to be the first female gas engineer, I do not know. But there was no gas engineering as a profession quite heavy in Nigeria, and I thought I was going to be presenting an opportunity. So I would say that as a child, I started to have a world view. So when I got into school and I started doing chemical engineering, of course, life hit. I lost my dad. There were a lot of challenges along the way. I got distracted. Many things happened. And by the time I was finishing school, I was finishing with a second class lower. And I think I shared that in the video, that was used for this. I finished with a second class lower. It wasn't something that someone who had graduated from high school with 8 distinctions, would finish with. So I was that bright girl. So finishing with a second class lower wasn't what my parents expected, but hey, that was it. But I remember before I checked out of school, one of our lecturers gave us a task to do. And the task was, before you sign out of this department, I want you to write your goal for the next 5 years. Now, that was strange. I mean, for university students, except if you were attending all these career personal development workshops, you are not really so much thinking goals like that, So it was the first time someone would make me sit down and ask myself, now you're done with school, what next? What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? And so I remember sitting down somewhere, and I was reflecting to myself. I said, this is an opportunity, Dupe, that you have to write on a blank canvas what you want, to draw your future. In that moment, it was, what do you want? It wasn't, what do you want based on your class of degree. It was just, what do you want for the next 5 years? And so I remember sitting down, thinking about how bad my grade was. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to build a world-class career. And it doesn't matter what class of degree I finished with. And so I decided I was going to build a global career. It was a decision. In that moment, it was a decision. So I told myself I was going to, and this was what a global career looked like to me at the time. I said, 1, I was going to work with global organizations, right? 2, I said I was going to acquire only global certifications. So whether, you're thinking of ICANN, let's say in the accounting space, you're thinking ICANN, whether in the HR space, you're thinking CIPM and whatnot, I made a decision I wasn't going to do any local, any Nigerian certification. I was going to take it, to the global level. And then a few other personnel. So I said then, yeah, I wanted to work with a multinational company. I wanted to achieve global certifications. I wanted to have attained the status of a consultant, right? And then I wanted to get married and at least have 1 child. Those were my 5 goals for 5 years. And I submitted it. And it was 5 years later, I realized that every single thing on that paper had been achieved. By that time, I was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was a consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I was in the field of HR. I was already certified by the Society for Human Resources Management in the US. I was married and I had 3 children in 5 years. Now, everything I wrote down had been achieved. Now, for Ogechi who asked, and anyone, I would say that it started with my mindset. I did not allow my class of degree to dictate what I could or couldn't do with my life. I made a decision. Now, one of the things that happen with goal setting is it sets your life on course. It sets, it's a very, very, I don't want to use the word magical. It's not magical, but it's quite an interesting dynamic there, whereby, when you write a goal down, it's not just what you think in your head. When you put pen to paper to translate that thought in your mind on a sheet of paper, there's a level of clarity that comes. There's a commitment to execution that begins to happen. Now, I'm a Christian, all right? I'm a Christian, and there's a part of the Bible that says, write down the vision. make it plain that he may run who reads it, all right? That he may run. You cannot run with a vision that is not written down. If you break down that scripture, you understand it. It says, write down the vision, make it plain, that he may run who reads it. That means you need to be able to first write it down to be able to read it. And you need to be able to write it in a way that is understandable and gives you clarity. Now, when it is clear, it is written in a way that is clear, it gives you the energy and the momentum to pursue. And so for me, even though that I finished school, my first job at the time was, interning somewhere to start my career in human resources, because that was eventually what I felt passionate from my final year to begin to do. It just started to come, to me. Things I needed to do. I got my first job as an HR analyst with a company then in Lagos. And I started working towards, having a global certification. And that was because within that organization, a lot of them had foreign degrees. So that placed me in an environment where I kept thinking global. I won't do local. So even if I couldn't afford a master's outside the country at the time, I could aim for a certification. And so I began to think, how do I save towards a certification? So everything began to align and respond to my desire of building a global career. So that was how I started. And so I remember working with that indigenous company in Lagos. Even though it wasn't a global company, it had global minded employees in it. It was a Nigerian owned company, but all the people inside were people maybe who are trained abroad and all that. So it felt global, because global, again, as we already established, is not a function of location. Global is not a function of location. Global is a mindset. Global is perspective. It's your approach. It's your style. It's your attitude. It's your behavior. It's how you show up, right? It's all of those things before it then translates to whether it's location or anything, right? So I was in that environment, and I remember somebody coming to me to say, are you aware PwC is recruiting? Guess what? With a second class lower, having been rejected on campus by KPMG. I mean, KPMG then, I remember, came, guys, I don't know, you don't know how it is being able to see people face to face. Who is that person that can come on camera? All right. Maybe you get a gift from me. It's interesting. I'm trying to ginger people to come on camera. Yeah. But, Yorubas will say, you have to see someone to get it really going. Chineye, are you trying to get a gift? No, just kidding. Right. So everything around me began to respond. So when PwC came, imagine sitting, this was someone who had sat in a place where KPMG was trying to recruit and got rejected. They just walked us out because I wasn't graduating with a 2-1. So I ordinarily should not think I could get into PwC. Do you see what I mean? So when someone came to me to say PwC was recruited, I should have ignored or maybe just counted myself out, like, what, Dupe, maybe they are not looking for your type. But because I was so rock solid sure that I could build a global career, it didn't matter to me. So I went to read more about it. I didn't say, what, I didn't finish with a 2-1. Somebody had rejected me before. That somebody rejected you before does not mean the next person will reject you. I said something in the short video that was used to, advertise this. I said, you do not let your past dictate your future. Your past should not dictate your future. So that KPMG rejected me did not infer that PwC would do the same. Guess what? Reading the selection criteria for PwC for the first time and only time ever, they decided to give opportunities for people who graduated with second class lower. They have not done it since that year again. And that was the first time ever. So they gave opportunities to those who finished with a second class lower, but achieved at least 6 distinctions in their O levels. So I had 8 distinctions. Yes, I finished with a 2-2. And I said to myself, Dupe, whatever it takes to make this happen, I was going to go for it. So I did everything, did all the research. What sort of questions do they, I positioned and prepared myself. And that's how I got into PricewaterhouseCoopers. And as soon as that environment opened up to me, I realized that nothing or no one could stop me. So it was from one global company to the other afterwards. For the ones, I mean, it was PwC I broke into. The next one became, more like people sponsoring me and saying, Dupe, there's an opportunity with AstraZeneca. Are you interested? I didn't know who AstraZeneca was, but somebody had put my name forward. And I said, okay, you know what, let's go for it. And that's how it, even my career transcended beyond working with a multinational based in Nigeria to having expanded roles across regions. But it started from the girl sitting somewhere on the campus of OAU deciding that she wanted to build a global career. Now, for some people, if you ask them, their story would not be the same as mine. It could just be that, yeah, I finished with a 2-1. The top, I just applied to the top companies and they hired me. Maybe their story won't be as deep as mine. Maybe mine is deep because I have to get out of a second-class lower. When your position is lower, you have to do a lot to get higher. So I have to dig out of that low position. But that was how the journey started for me. All right. So I hope that helped someone. Just quickly trying to check another question I think I saw here. What does it really entail to build a global career? Okay, how did you start? I've answered that. It says, I've come to elevate my mindset. Yeah, what does it take? How can you start? To elevate your mindset. To elevate your mindset starts, with a decision. I want my mindset elevated. I remember there was a friend of mine I had then back in high school. I schooled in Ondo State in Nigeria for people who maybe are not Nigerians on this call. So there's a part of our country that is, Ondo State is quite, remote relatively, if you compare it to places like Lagos and, yeah. So I remember then, children grow up speaking Yoruba, English once in a while and all that. It was the norm. And then I remember we got into uni. This girl and I went to the same uni from high school. And she just came back to the room one day and said, you know what, guys, let's start speaking only English. I remember laughing then like, babe, who's putting you under pressure, But that was her decision. And guess what? She switched many things about her life that determined the next course of her life onwards from there. She changed herself. She changed her outlook about life, with just that singular decision. Now, someone might say, what has your language got to do with it? No, it was a mindset and a belief that she had that for her to show up in a certain way, she needed to make certain changes. And that's what I'm trying to pull out of this conversation. So if you want to elevate your mindset, it starts with you deciding that you want to make a switch. Okay, I think my mindset is not at the level where I want it to be at, and I want to change it. Make that decision. The second thing is surround yourself with people or resources, information that will accompany that desire. So it's not enough to desire to elevate your mindset. You need to surround yourself. Like I said to you, I made a decision, but my decision was further strengthened by the people I had in my company, people I had around me, whether one had schooled in the UK or the other one was about to, or they had, this certification from Cranfield or that certification from there and whatnot. So being surrounded by people who align with your vision will be very helpful. Because if you have an elevated mindset and a deflated, I don't even know, a depressed, because the opposite of elevation is depression, right? So if you have an elevated mindset and you have people who are further down on the ladder, you need to work on fixing yourself, fixing your mindset, than being in the company of people who will always poke holes in your decision. If, for instance, I remember when I said I only wanted to embark on global certifications, there were people who felt, why are you feeling? Can you get? Can you get?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, we can still hear you.
I think my confession is automated, so let me just sort this out.
Okay.
Yeah. Please, can you hear what's playing in my background? Hear something in my background? Can you hear anything in my background?
Anything in your background?
No.
Awesome.
Not at all.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So I was talking about your association. Very important. So you need to be mindful of that in order to elevate your mind. Okay. So you need to get your mindset to the right company, and that's the way to get started. So when we talk about on coming, there was a time.
Heidi, I'm not sure we can hear you clearly. Your line is breaking. We can't hear you clearly.
Thank you for your patience. I have to. My confession goes off by 6 p.m. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome, bless. Awesome. So
Yeah,
I was trying to respond to the question around the role social media. So social media is a platform and it's an enabler, all right? It's not a deciding factor, all right? So when you talk about social media and how it's being used these days, whether people are creating reels, whether people are sharing personal stories, and maybe those things don't quite align with you, one of the questions I like to ask people is your personality standing in the way of your purpose? Or is your personality an enabler for your purpose? Now, if we all go by the things that we don't like to do, and we only do the things we feel comfortable doing, how much of growth are we going to achieve? I believe it's very little. Now, can I tell you, or can I be open with you that I'm a very shy person? Would you believe that? Would you believe, can somebody tell me in the comment section, you believe Dupe is shy? Yes, no. It's a lie. What are your thoughts? Dupe is shy, yes or no? Or maybe now that I'm asking, okay, she's saying maybe. So oh, not at all, not at all. Oh, wow. Okay. So she can't, Dupe can be, wow, I won't be surprised, yeah, because I'm asking now, right? Yeah. So I tell you, I am wearing a learned personality. So the person you see on this call has learned how to show up. Now, left to me, I can be hidden somewhere, just chilling in my corner. I can be very introverted. This is a learned personality. I remember one time when I was a bit younger, someone said to me, and that was where I had to make a switch. I was so shy. This lady reached out to me, said, if you keep going like this, you will not make it in life. And I was in high school. I was so shy, it was affecting me, and I did not mind that it was taking opportunities away from me, opportunities that were mine, things that were mine. I will pay someone to go and help me take my provision from my school mother's locker. I mean, just to give you an idea of how shy, because I couldn't stand, excuse me, seniors, can I come in? All those sort of things. It just used to drain me. I didn't like being exposed to new people, new places. I just wanted my own space. So I would keep my things with my school mother at the time, but the energy, the effort, the stress of going to get, I didn't want all that. Stand in front of people, I didn't want all that. So, but then when I read a book, Why You Act the Way You Do, it changed a lot of things for me. And I realized that I needed to step out of that, and learn how to, how to function more engagingly. Okay. So when it comes to social media, I understand that not everybody, feels the vibe. It's not every time you show up online. I mean, if you don't want to, but you need to ask yourself, what can social media do for me? And is that thing important for me, for my destiny? If it is important for your destiny, then do not let your personality stand in your way of advancing. If somebody says your destiny helper, you're going to meet that person that will position your product, your career, your business globally. And you now say you are shy. You can't. Do you understand? You're going to do everything you can to be able to communicate or land that conversation with that person. All right. So social media feels like I'm fishing in a very, very red ocean. I don't know who that destiny helper is. So it's as if I'm just shooting. I don't know where my shots are landing. Can I keep up with this? I want to tell you that learn how to navigate that space, because social media has come to stay. And one of the things it's been designed to help us to do is to help us to build a brand, elevate our voice, and give us a platform that may not, be otherwise available to us. Okay, so leverage social media to your advantage. Now, one of the things I prepared to share with us on my first slide is, when it comes to building a global career, you need to be clear on your why. Why do you want to build a global career? Now, we understand what global career is, starting from where you are and expanding to the rest of the world. Brilliant. The question is, why do you want to export yourself? Why do you want to be a brand known globally, known internationally? Why is that important to you? What is your why? Simon Sinek said, you need to start with why. Because to do anything sustainable, anything meaningful, anything impactful, your purpose needs to be clear. Because where there is no purpose, where there is no vision, where there is no why, people easily throw off, throw in the towel, like they say. People easily let go. People easily get confused and lose momentum. But when you're clear on your why is it important to you that you go global? For me, I knew my why. It's a mandate. I'm not, this is not a jackpot syndrome kind of thing. Now, if you're in the jackpot, please, by all means, enjoy it, right? But you need to be clear on why it is jackpot to start with. Why do you want to go? Japa is a slang word used in Nigeria to address people who move from Nigeria to other parts of the world, who travel with the hope of advancing their careers or seeking better opportunities, right? So you need to decide, why do I want to advance globally? Should everybody advance globally? I don't know. You decide. Do you want to be part of those who want to advance? Make that decision and be clear on your why. Why is it important to you? But the only thing I would say is your why has to be more than making money. Your why has to be more than, I want a better life, as it were. Because you realize that you go to you decide to move from whatever country you are today to go somewhere else, and you realize that, oh my God, it's even better in this other place. How many better countries, how many better conditions or better living conditions are you going to be chasing? So it's got to be more than that. So when we talk about global career, it's not about relocation. It's about that mindset, exporting your skills, your capabilities and whatnot. It begins from there. Now, if there's now a need for you to relocate, you're clear on why you're relocating. You're clear on why you're leaving. Right, so you have to start with why. The interesting thing is, like maybe saw somebody who said, there was a time I wasn't thinking about relocating. For what? I remember a company reached out to me from Dubai, a multinational pharmaceutical company reached out to me from Dubai in 2015 or so-ish. I didn't even go for the interview. Because in my mind, I was already thinking, and that's one of my biggest career mistakes. I think this is the first time I'm saying it out. I was so not keen that I missed the interview. I didn't even know. I now had to reach out like, oh my God, for my own professional brand, position. You don't go, people don't schedule meetings and then you don't show up, right? I felt so bad. But to show you how keen I was not, there was a time like that. But when I became clear on why I had to, I wouldn't even let, the impression that people, these days people make people who relocate feel like traitors, like you're leaving the country, you're blah, 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 So if your reason is not solid, if your why is not solid, you can easily get, misguided. And then when you even relocate, there's a lot of demand on you, mentally speaking, because it's you're settling into a new country. It's not going on holiday. People think, let's just go abroad. No, visiting is different from relocating. It's a totally different experience, right? It's a totally different. So it has a mental pull or demand on people. So if you're going and you're not clear on your why, you can easily say, you know what, these challenges are too much. I need to get back. So you need to be clear that relocation is not about, global careers is not about moving abroad. It's about, developing the right mindset and serving the world with your genius. Okay. Said, what does it really entail to be the global career? Okay, I think we've covered that. social media, is there any other way to do this? So being, social media, like I said, is a leverage. There are other ways. You need to just ensure that in building your career, maybe you're traveling more for global opportunities. So I give you an example. You're in the oil, let's say you're playing in the oil and gas space, whether it's an entrepreneur or an employee. You need to be aware that there are regional conferences that happen from time to time that will expose you to people within your industry in Africa, in Nigeria, or outside the world, and all that. So you need to be aware of strategic events, networking sessions. I'm not saying showing up for every career workshop program that is happening on LinkedIn. I'm talking about targeted, specific, impactful sessions that address the need of your business or your career in that moment. I remember someone who was going to pivot into the oil and gas space, and I think an event happens in Abuja as well. I can't remember. I think so. I heard, someone's testimony at the time. This individual said, I want to move into the oil and gas industry, and I'm going to invest in attending one of their conferences that was coming up in Abuja at the time. And she went, she attended, went to all the stalls, all the people, spoke with people, exchanged cards and numbers, blah, 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 went with her portfolio of work. And within a month or two, she was able to get a job through networking with somebody who was at that event as well. So you want to put yourself, if you don't want to do social media, you can do physical events, meeting people on site at events, whether in Nigeria or outside, just to give you that. But I think social media is a cheaper and a more broader platform to explore. Yeah, so how do I build a personal brand for global visibility? I would say these days, people have building a personal brand is very good. And for Tosin, who works in the marketing space, she can tell you all about branding and all that, because she's a product marketing manager, if I remember. So they do a lot of branding, But let me tell you one thing about branding. You need to be clear on your unique selling point. You need to be very clear on what value you're bringing to the table. Right? You need to be very clear on what are you bringing to the table. I remember there was a time I had a reflection in my journey, and I said, how, back in primary school when we're learning arithmetic and mathematics and all that, you remember how we did mean, mode, median when we're doing statistics? You remember those things? The average of this is the most common number, is the least, all those sort of things. Yeah. So when you talk about mean, average talks about adding everything together and dividing by, the total number, right? That's mean. And I said to myself, being average is like you're one of many. Nothing stands you out, yeah? You're not the most common, you're not the highest factor, you're not, mean means that everybody have become the same. Like they've leveled you, so being average doesn't stand out in any way. So I started to ask myself, if people Google HR professionals, at least with, let's say, the same years of experience as I do, are we all going to be looking alike? Or what is going to stand me out? What is going to be my unique selling point? So I used to do a lot of, permit me to use market intelligence. So I will go on LinkedIn sometimes, just browse the profiles of people in my industry, my profession, just to see what people are up to professionally. Everybody is carrying the same HR certification. Oh, CIPM, SHRM, this one, that one. Everybody's looking the same. They pick your CV. Everybody has the same qualification. Everybody has the same, the question is, what stands you out? So I now look for something that my peers are not doing, then I will go and do it. I will go and look for something they're not doing. So that was why, was it 9 years ago, I decided to go and get certified as a coach. No, 10 years ago, yeah. I decided to go and be a coach. Now, these days, it has become the in thing, right? So you need to ask yourself, what stands you out? So currently, I'm wrapping up my executive MBA, and I decided to specialize in artificial intelligence and digital transformation. Now, how many HR people have that layer of tech on there? I don't know, but that is how you stand out. So when it comes to personal branding, you need to ask yourself, what message do I want to pass across with my brand? What problem do I want to solve? How do I want people or to perceive my profile? So when I show up in a place, how do I want to be known? So when it comes to, personal branding, being key on your brand message is very important. If people call your name, for what? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known as? What do you want to be known by? If people show, describe, if I say, have you seen Coke before? Coke, you don't know Coke, Coca-Cola. It's black. It gives this fizzy, it's black. It's in this can. It's in red. When you see red, it's Coke. It's not, it can be Fanta. Fanta is orange. You are describing the attributes of that product. When people describe you, what would they describe you by? What are those attributes? So you need to be clear on your attributes, or the attributes that you want people to know you by. Because if you don't tell people what you want them to know about you, they define you based on how they experience you. And it can be different experiences and different definitions. But if you decide, this is what I want people to know me as, such that if anyone or everyone interacts with you, they have the same impression, almost the same impression. So if I say I want people who come, everyone who comes in contact with Dupe should feel her energy. I want people to feel engaged. I want people to feel inspired. I want people to feel like they have a personal touch with me. I want people to feel like, this lady is very knowledgeable about her space. What are those things you want people to experience? I can tell you, if you leave this call, if they say, oh, how was your session with Dupe? You might all say about the same thing. Her level of energy, her level of enthusiasm. You can say, okay, wow, she was quite personal. She shared her story. She tried to call our names, it felt a bit personal, when she called out, oh, this person, that person, it felt she tried to connect or whatever. You may leave with almost the same thing. Nobody comes into my session and ever feels dull, except there's something going on with them. Okay, now that's me. I'm energetic, but outside this call, I may not be as energetic as I sound. It's when I show up. It's the vibe I want my sessions to come with, because I want people leaving energized, inspired, and all that. So you need to be clear on how you want to show up. Now, when I go on LinkedIn, I show up with that same level of energy. I share stories, I share pictures, very personal. In fact, you may come on my profile and you think we've met before, just because you see me, just because, I remember one time I was responding to some comments on my LinkedIn page. And it was one of those days where you had numerous, and again, I try to respond to every comment on my post. That's one of the ways I try to let people feel seen and feel heard, feel engaged, okay? So I try to respond, and it was one of these days, it was one of those viral posts and quite a number of comments, and I'm like, oh my God, am I going to ignore? Some days you're not able to, but I said, I'm going to do. So I started responding, and then I was pasting some of the responses. Maybe I'll tweak it a little bit for somebody else, just trying to make it move along very quickly. One of my former bosses, in fact, he was my regional president at AstraZeneca. He sent me a message. He said, you forgot to put people's names. And I laugh, because I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think, Carl would never react to my post, but guess what? People are looking, people are watching. I didn't know he would see or spot that little difference in my response, but he did. So you need to create your brand to the point where when it doesn't show up, people know it's not you. It doesn't have your signature. And I tell that to my kids. I said, when it has your name on it, it has to be excellent. So if they say you are involved in this task on this particular project, it needs to be excellent, because that's you are in there, and that's part of your brand. So when it comes to building your personal brand, whether it's on LinkedIn or any social media platform, depending on how you want people to, how you want to be seen, you may want to upload your profile image. Now, why am I not saying put your profile image? Because recently I encountered someone in the UK here who is a senior psychiatrist consultant, and he told me he had been involved with mental health cases in the UK, sometimes criminal cases, where people who were indicted or sentenced to prison as a result of his opinion, his medical opinion, were now trailing him. So he will not show up on LinkedIn with his full image and identity. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it will show up with initials. So you don't say that, because people say that when you go online, you need to put your picture, you need to know what works for your field. All right. So it's not a perfect template. So you know your field, you know what works for you, what is visibility for you. And when you say visibility, you also need to be clear. Who do you want to be visible to? Because if you show up on LinkedIn and the bulk of your customers are on Instagram, you are showing up in the wrong place. Or if you're showing up on Instagram and your clients are on LinkedIn, then you're visible in the wrong place. So don't blink in the dark. Be clear what your message is. Be clear who your audience is. Be clear on what the needs of your audience is and how that connects with your message, and ensure that your messaging, your positioning always reflects how your message responds to the needs of your audience. And you need to take that message to where your audience is. Okay, so that's how to build your personal brand. When it comes to now aligning personal brand with global visibility, you also need to be clear on where do you want to be visible. What do I mean by that? So for instance, people tell me, I remember then, somebody reached out and said, I'm in the UK and no, I'm looking to relocate, and what certifications do you think I should do? I found that a little bit vague. I'm like, where are you relocating to? You know why? Because what obtains in Europe is not necessarily what obtains in North America. Some certifications are thriving in Europe, but they are not. If you get to America or Canada, it changes. Even within Canada, there are provincial certifications. If you have an HR certification, say for instance from Toronto, if you go to British Columbia, you have to get certified by British Columbia standards. So if you're not clear on your when it comes to global visibility, you need to start with, okay, am I just general? Is this global? So I give you some global skills as an example. If, for instance, you become an SAP consultant, SAP is not region specific. SAP is function specific. So you can be an SAP HR consultant, SAP financial analyst, SAP procurement, and whatnot. Whether you find yourself in China or in Singapore or Canada, SAP is SAP everywhere. Do you see what I mean? But if you're a project manager, you need to be clear, which of the certifications is applicable for my region. So being clear on, where you want to be visible, where is that location? It begins to tailor your message. It begins to help you craft the language. How do I speak to people from this culture? How do I speak to people from that culture? So that needs to be very clear. Okay, so build your personal brand, but when it comes to your messaging, adapt it to the audience you're looking to attract. Okay, so what are some of the practical things? I think we've touched on them a little bit in terms of what you should be doing to build a global career. The first thing is, building that online presence. You need to build an online presence, all right? You need to build an online presence, a strong online presence. So for someone who said, social media is very helpful. It's not the only tool. It just means that you get to people and places faster online than you would do, without using social media. Another thing you need to understand is you need to expand your network, all right? Network across borders. Don't limit yourself to, Niger, Africans and all that. Expand your network. Look for platforms, whether it's Fiverr, where you can begin to build network or a portfolio of jobs, even as well, to explore remote jobs. Because sometimes people's challenge about networking or building a global portfolio is, where do I get the global job? Maybe it's easier for some professions than others. For HR, as an example, sometimes, when I was in Nigeria, it was easier for companies looking to come into Nigeria to hire you, but that a company will hire you from Nigeria to come to their own markets, it was quite low. All right, I wouldn't say it was impossible, it was just low. So you need to ask yourself, if I want to work, serve clients in the US so that I get exposed, say for instance, to North American markets, African markets, you need to get on, platforms like Fiverr, where you can build your portfolio and begin to serve clients across borders. Then you also want to gain in-demand global skills. Sometimes people think, I need to get, maybe I need to pivot into IT. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Look even within your space, your field. What are the global certifications? There was something I used to do back then, and I still do it. I will go into LinkedIn and look at profiles of people ahead of me in my field. what qualifications do they have? Which ones don't I have that I believe is aligned to my aspirations? I go for it. I don't wait, to be Kenny. I don't wait to be told. I just go for it. So in fact, there was a time, people reached out, Dupe, I'm in the UK now. I'm trying to get a job and it's a bit difficult. I see that, you're in the HR space. Can you please guide me? And I'm like, okay, let me see your profile. And I'm looking at their profile. This person has never worked with global companies to start with, and you don't even have a global certification. Now you're in the UK, you want to be competitive. You don't have anything that adds to that, global domain. So people need to, learn how to, okay, if my global career involves relocating, maybe now, maybe in the next 5 years or, or more or less, what do I need to acquire? What certifications, what skills do I need to acquire that will still be in demand? So you want the future, for instance, future of work report by the World Economic Forum to be your partner. You want to explore and digest that report very well, to see what opportunities are there. You also want to explore, on LinkedIn, there's a LinkedIn report as well. What are those in-demand skills? And they have for each region. I think there was one for Nigeria, I can't remember. But there are top 10 skills. There's this report they have for top 10 skills in each market. So you just want to arm yourself with information that will help you make informed and the right decision per time. Another thing you want to be mindful of is you want to be culturally agile. Sometimes when I read people's posts online, I smile. People still write like they're writing to just Nigerians. You're using slogans that people don't understand. You're talking as if you're talking to your neighbor, there in Africa, or in Lagos, or, people are wondering, okay, you've spoken now. Who has understood you? Just Nigerians. You cannot be culturally rigid and expect to attract global opportunities. So you need to be very mindful, when you get on global platforms. So you give an example. I've been on this call. I mentioned the word Japa earlier. I had to describe it. Now, all the names I've seen on this call are Nigerian names, if I'm correct, but I may be wrong, right? I may be wrong. All the names here, I can't assume that everybody understands Japa. So I have to explain what it is. I can't assume everybody knows Ondo State or Akure because I'm thinking everybody's, we're Nigerians. No, we are not. We may not be, right? We may not all be. So when you show up in forums, sometimes I see some mindset about, I'm proud of my place. I'm proud. No, everybody is proud of where they're coming from. But if you want to be global, you need to show your cultural agility when you're having conversations with people, except for things that may not be very, very obvious. But don't use slangs or words that are not globally known. You need to be able to feel the room, read the room, be aware of yourself, be aware of the environment you're in, and then show that cultural sensitivity. What you think is a joke in your country might not be a joke somewhere else. So don't get on global platforms, whether it's on LinkedIn or on Instagram or wherever, and just crack jokes that people can't laugh to or laugh at, or crack a joke that may be offensive, even in an extreme situation. So these are some cultural awareness. You just want to sit down these days with ChatGPT. You can give a prompt to ChatGPT and say, let's say you're looking to move to Singapore in APAC, right? And you say, what are the cultural nuances I need to be aware of if I'm seeking to explore opportunities in this region? I'm an African, I want you to act as a global, as a cultural expert or immigration expert and advise on XYZ. You will be amazed at the ton of information. So for instance, if you're looking to move to Asia, one of the things you want to start doing is connecting with people in that region. Be visible to them, ask questions about what is going on, develop your knowledge within your field, and begin to penetrate, begin to get sponsors, all right? Those are things that would help you. So when we talk about networking, it's not just increasing the number of followers online. You can have followers that are not useful. These days, LinkedIn even remove people that are not active on your followers list or connection, and you see your followership reduce because it's not in the numbers, it's in the quality of engagement. So make those interactions very meaningful and very interactive. I think I will stop here for now to take any question and any comments before we wrap up. Any question or reflection or aha moment? Thank you, Ogechi. Thanks, Tosin. Any question, comments? Quiet again.
Okay, while we are waiting for Jaya, do you have a question?
No, I'm just typing my light bulb moments where you talked about certification. Sometimes, I mean, for me, I'm a medic, and you feel like, well, I've gotten all the things I need to get. I'm a bit tired and fed up now. But like you, I was recently thinking about digital healthcare, mainly because I went for a symposium yesterday and they were talking about it. I thought, wow, this is an interesting field. I'm going to explore it. So for me, you know, when Tosin talked about yeah, she's going to have a word for you today. I thought that was me. You were just talking about me. And so that's why I said I was just typing my light bulb moment. Like, wow, it was almost like you were speaking to me. It was like you saw me yesterday thinking, oh, I'm going to explore this thing. I'm going to find out what this thing is all about.
Well done. Thank you for sharing, Jay. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jaya. I don't know if we have other comments in the room. We would like to hear from you. What was your light bulb moment? Okay, someone is trying to solve. Who is
Yes,
that?
good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for the session. It was really, really good and really interesting listening to you speak about your experiences. I mean, it just gives us that, that inspiration that we can also do the same thing that you're doing and also do better in ways in our own ways basically. I think one question that I have is I have a particular mentor that I speak to. He works in the he works in New York, and I remember him saying something about applying to foreign jobs and all of that, and also because of the load of CVs that these companies receive in maybe whenever it is they put out an opening, um, they tend to use AI, and sometimes this AI gets to pick on some keywords to be able to filter out, sessions. So my question is, what are those keywords that you think would get a global HR to be interested in, even pushing forward or even taking forward a conversation with you?
Very
I
good.
think that's the question.
Yeah, very good question. So keywords are not generic. They are industry specific. So, and they're not just even industry specific, they're also role specific. Right. So what I usually advise people in this day of AI, if you want to apply for a job, copy that job out. This question you just asked me, you can ask ChatGPT. All right. You can ask ChatGPT. And one of the things that can happen is you can even say, ChatGPT, I would like, I want you to act as a recruitment or recruiter or recruitment consultant, whatever you say. I want you to act as a recruiter at XYZ company. If you know the name of the company you're applying for, use the job adverts below, and then you paste that job advert and say, use it to update my CV, using the relevant keywords that will spot my job, my application out as a top applicant. Now, ChatGPT will go into that, explore what the ATS keywords are, and then be able to incorporate those into your CV. So on this call, we can't say what keywords are because it varies from job to job. It varies from company to company, from industry. So the key or the secret to you knowing the keywords is in the job you're applying to. And this is where tailoring your CV to those jobs come in very handy. So you don't just submit your CV because, oh, this title says HR manager as an example. Oh, it's an HR manager role. I'm an HR manager. I'm submitting my CV. No, the HR manager in that organization may be required to do things in addition to what you might be doing, or things a little bit different. And so there will be nuances. So it's those things that you look out for that AI can help incorporate into your CV, and then you sit down and take a look at what AI has given you. Does it represent me? Does it represent my experience? And once you have tweaked and updated it in a way that makes sense, then it's good to go. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, very clear. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Awesome.
Sorry, not to push too much, but I
Oh,
think
you're not
just
pushing.
this is just more of like a confirmation,
Mm.
right? So one thing that I also learned, I mean, recently, because a lot of the times when I see, I've been, updating my CV for quite a while now, and I mean, it's just the same, even the same format I check online is always like the same format and all of that. But one thing I learned recently, and I also just want to confirm with you also as a global HR, is when it comes to, I know companies are also looking out for results and all of that. If you see a CV that sort of like quantifies his achievement in terms of maybe percentage or maybe revenue, let's say, oh, I was able to do 100% on my mark or my target for the month or for the quarter and all of that. Maybe in 600%, 100%, or maybe in amount also. Is that kind of thing? Is it something that also gets you to be interested in such CV?
So first of all, I'm an HR person, I'm not a recruiter. But two, I believe results will always interest anyone. Now, what I have seen is I've seen an experience where someone's CV was seen and it was assumed to be exaggerated. Do you see? So put your metrics, and you need to put context also. So you need to put context. So in the US, so let me tell you, so when it comes to the UK versus US, the UK is a more conservative market than the UK. I have lost a job before that I was told that my profile was exaggerated, probably because they felt, how is this person able to do this? How is this? And I'm like, but you didn't check. You could have checked with my manager. You could have checked. I mean, this was another company, a bit affiliated with a company I'd worked with in the past. And I was quite surprised that you can pump your CV, go through the AI, whatever, and still be rejected because somebody thinks it's exaggerated, because culturally speaking, people here don't loud their trumpet. They loud it in a very subtle way. So when somebody says, I grew my regional, I grew revenue by 600%, that can be like, what? One, like you grew. So so if say for instance, if you say after COVID, I was able to drive sales up by over 100%. Now you are the one who knows it's 600%, but people will understand that COVID period, a lot of businesses had a decline in their revenue as a result of whatever, but then you were able to navigate and build things or whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you need to build context. So, or sometimes someone who maybe is inheriting a new product or a new region where there was no record of sale in the prior year, or maybe there was just a pilot, and so they realized this much, and then they decided to go full-fledged. Then you now said you grew revenue by 600%. That doesn't, because next year, are you going to grow it by 600%? Do you know the formula? Do you have the formula to do 600%? Or was that a one-off? So how we project ourselves or project our CV can either position us for the job or take us out of the game. Okay? So you need to ask yourself, I need to put metrics. Metrics are always advisable to put, but be reasonable with how you're throwing the numbers.
Yeah, that's clear. Thanks so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, DA. Thank you so much for, the session. One thing I always enjoy about your session is the practicality of it, how that you shared a lot of personal stories and you gave us, a lot of practical tips that we can use even after now. I want to say thank you. And I want to see the reactions in the chat box. Let's appreciate Modupe Akinsiun for making our time to share from our world of experience with us today. Let me see your comments. Thank you so much. I know you have even stayed beyond the time you communicated with me. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm going to reach out to you after now, so you can actually say bye-bye at this point. And if there are any other questions after, I would also let you know. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. So I will send the slides to you. I mean, the short slides I have just share with the team as well. All right.
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I mean, that was a very, very impactful session. Thank you very much, everyone, for staying up till now. In the next 5 to 10 minutes, we are going to wrap up the session. But I just want to take this opportunity to appreciate Mr. Salakoshino. I don't know if he's still on the call. Okay, he is from the John Maxwell team. I think he has dropped off. Yes, he was part of the call earlier. And I want to appreciate every single person that made out time to be part of this. I could see Sam Majid, Pastor Sam, thank you so much. Ayobola Ayodele, thank you so much. Bridget Boli, thank you so much. Fumilaya, hello, thank you for joining. FB Hannah, thank you for joining. Tolu, yes, Visionary Jaye, thank you. And to all the 90 Day Accountability Program participants who are on this call today. Well done. You've been having master classes every other week and sometimes even back to back since the program started. And I want to say congratulations to each and every one of you for making it up till this last masterclass for this cohort of the 90 Day Accountability Program. If there is something that jumped out to you, maybe in this particular masterclass, please feel free to put it on the chat box, so that, or even in the community so that others who didn't join perhaps could also be motivated to go back to the recording let me stop the recording actually. Go back to the recording